Is it weird? Alright, hello, good evening everyone. My name is Jay.
Oh, still Jay, and I am still Till.
And thank you for tuning in to our live feed session today with one of our very good friends. Before we introduce him, I think it's also good that we introduce ourselves for those newcomers. So we are from Intercultural Education, ICEHongKong for short. And what do we actually do?
We love to connect people to understand the world better. Usually that means we are in classrooms and in universities. We want people to make friends and stimulate their curiosity about the world. We enable face-to-face interaction. But obviously right now, face-to-face, that's a big no-no. So we are trying to do more things online, and we are trying to give people a platform to share what's happening online. And one big thing is happening right now. What's that, Jay?
Is of course the COVID-19 or coronavirus or whatever name you want to give it to it. So this is the main topic for this series actually, and we want to give the audience a chance to talk live to our guests from different countries, people that we have met over the past few years, people who have been to Hong Kong, live in Hong Kong, and share with us their perspective about this situation right now. Okay, so if you have any questions regarding the situation in this episode about Malaysia, feel free to comment in the YouTube or send us a private message on any of our social media. Okay.
Hashtag ICEHongKong.
Hashtag ICEHongKong. Yes, and also if you want to know more, what's any burning questions that you have, or any topics that you would like to know about any country, also feel free to tell us, okay, because we want to improve ourselves. We want to give us more ideas, please. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. It doesn't have to be about COVID-19. Maybe
Yes.
you're already sick of this topic, or you're really curious about something from another country. So just go for that, or suggest a new country. We love to learn more about the world ourselves. So just let us know.
Exactly. And if you heard any news on WhatsApp, or family group chat, you want to clarify, also send it to us, and then we can link you up with the person from the country to clarify any fake news that's currently going on right now. All right, and for today, it's not just going to be about COVID-19. Of course, we are also going to talk a little bit about if you have any questions about Malaysia in general, or in culture, I'm sure our guests can also share a bit more as well. So without further ado, let's welcome our distinguished guest. Okay, he is a student currently studying in Hong Kong, but right now,
Well, currently, I mean, yeah.
distance learning, I would say, right? Zoom University.
The wonders of the 21st
technically.
century.
Yes, Zoom
Technically,
University, yes. And he's none other than Eric from Malaysia. Okay, I'll let him introduce himself more actually. Yeah, Eric, hi.
Hey.
Yeah, so Eric, can you tell our
everyone.
audience, share with our audience a bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. All right. So my name's Eric. I come from Malaysia. I'm a second year student right now. I just turned 20 like a few months ago. So yeah, I'm a student in Hong Kong, and I mentioned that. So one thing, like, we are all now home because of coronavirus, and everyone has came back to their home country. But for my experience, it's actually kind of different, because just before coronavirus, there was another big event happening in Hong Kong, and it was the demonstrations around in Hong Kong. And so actually, the last semester, in semester 1, my classes got cancelled, and the university just told us to pack up and just leave for home. It's safer there. So actually, I haven't been back to Hong Kong in about almost 6 months now, all the way back in around mid-November. Yeah.
Wow. So is that considered? So are you like technically is considered your university is like for second year just half done, right? Because
I've only been to classes for about 2 months out of the whole year.
I see. Yes. So So right now, which part of Malaysia are you in? I mean, just for our audience to also
Okay.
get a bit of orientation.
For simple sake, I would normally say I just live in KL because everyone knows KL. It's the capital city. If I told you like Perlis or Negeri Sembilan, you probably wouldn't know that. But I do kind of live in KL. It's just left to it. It's Selangor. It's the most developed part of Malaysia. Well, I guess other than KL. There's a region territory, like special federal territory thing about it. But yeah, I live in Selangor.
Okay.
I'm about 20-30 minutes drive away from the center of KL.
Oh, okay.
So,
Let's actually have a look at the map. I'm not sure how many people who are watching this are really familiar with the map of Malaysia. So let's actually have a quick look where it is, at least to find KL or Kuala Lumpur and like the big east and the big west Malaysian parts.
And by the way, if you in this episode, if you hear me speaking with more Singlish and Eric speaking with more Manglish, if you don't understand what we are talking about, also feel free to comment, let us know. I tend to turn back into my Singaporean accent when I meet another fellow Singaporean or Malaysian. Yes. So
should
we're
I
gonna
keep
show
it
you the
more
map.
Manglish or should I keep it more standard?
I don't know, like audience. I mean, if you would like us to speak more like Malaysian Singaporean accent, I guess we can do. Yes. So far we have your fellow Malaysian Yok is in the chat.
Yok.
Yes, I think he's looking at you.
Oh, to fact check
see.
whatever you say about Malaysia is
Oh
true.
God.
No pressure.
No. Oh no.
Someone from Penang.
Oh no.
Yes. So no pressure there.
Yeah, totally no pressure. It's
No
alright.
pressure there. Yeah. Anyway, so we have the map on the screen now. So for people who can also check where exactly is Selangor.
Yeah, so it's near
Yeah.
Kuala Lumpur, right?
Yes. So we're gonna take a look.
Yeah, it's just west of the dot of Kuala Lumpur. Yeah, there's a smaller place called Selangor.
Okay. So, you can take a look right now. So where exactly are you from? So north of Kuala Lumpur, I'm guessing.
West.
West of Kuala Lumpur.
West southwest-ish.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty much on Selangor itself, actually.
Yeah. So pretty much up there. you put it that way. Yeah.
You know, for a European like me, that's basically like Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, Selangor. It's all like Southeast Asia. It's all the same thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's the same thing, you know.
Yeah, but anyway, I guess it's also a good thing for our audience to know that actually from Malaysia, right, there's not just the Peninsula Malaysia, but there's also East Malaysia, which many people forget. Even some Malaysians that I talk to, they forget that there is this part. All right, so
I used to be one of them.
yes, so just to give everyone an idea right now, we're gonna zoom out and then you can see that that part is also part the right side, okay, the east side is also part of Malaysia. Okay, just a simple geography sharing. Sharing.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so let's go back into the main topic now. We know a bit about Eric.
And Malaysia.
Malaysia as well, Selangor. But let's say today's topic is about COVID-19, about social distancing. But maybe can you just quickly also share with us like the current situation now? What's happening in Malaysia?
So Malaysia does not have specifically lockdown per se. It's just called MCO, Movement Control Order.
Yes.
It's kind of like a semi-lockdown in a sense. So we are like, in some sense, it's kind of like a curfew, and you can only go out for certain valid reasons. So if I remember right, there are 10 essential services, which I don't quite remember what they are, but most of it has to do with either like food, groceries, as well as like medical, of course, because you need to take care of the patients, as well as some manufacturing, like key manufacturing that has to do with the medical industry. So mainly like production of face masks, alcohol, like hand washes and whatnot, as well as just general goods like daily common necessities.
So like food is also included as essential. And so for those who are not working in this these industries, what are the timings or that they can go out, or how is the restriction like?
In terms of work, like most work outside of those services are pretty much like barred completely, because
Ah.
like there is no work. Everything is pretty much online now,
Yes.
as I believe most of the world is at.
And but let's say you want to go out for your you want to buy things, or you want to buy or walk your dog, something like that.
Yeah.
Is there a specific hour, or it's just you can only go out for a certain amount of time, or what's the arrangement like?
Yeah. So initially, like when we only had, I think, a few cases, and before there was like a big boom in Malaysia, it was mainly kind of just like precautionary. And as more and more people got infected and there were more cases, the timings and the restrictions grew basically. So the current restriction now, I believe, is 8 to 8. So people can't be outside from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Like outside of those times, you can't be.
Okay. So 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. is where you can go out, you can buy your groceries, but after 8 p.m. you kind of have to all stay at home.
8 p.m. you have to stay home.
Okay.
Yeah, and like most of the businesses, they're also not allowed to operate before 8. So I mean, after 8. So
So that
what
actually-
happens is that you kind of have a crunch time of like everyone going out to get their dinners, and like all these, like everyone's kind of worried. It's like, oh, if some of them are like too busy, too popular, then sometimes you won't get your food, basically.
So actually, what do you think about this kind of arrangement? Because personally, where I feel that when everyone rush out to go and buy something, and rush, they're actually gonna create even worse problem, right? Like what do you feel about this kind of arrangement? Do you think it's useful, or?
I mean, I don't think it's unwarranted. Like 8 to 8 essentially makes it easier for the enforcement, basically. Because before it used to be like, oh, stay at home, you can only go out to buy stuff and then you come back.
Yes.
Yeah. So like the problem, I guess, like some people will try to circumvent it by either going at like really odd hours. And so I guess as a way for the country to basically enforce it is you have an 8 to 8 rule. If they catch you outside of it, then yeah, you're going to get a fine, summon, maybe a court ruling, or thrown in jail possibly.
Okay. And so we are neighbors, right? And
Yes,
and
a
then
little
because of
neighbor down there.
the funny thing is, in Malaysia, when there was a lockdown, I feel that Singaporeans were more afraid than Malaysians, because a lot of our food and everything comes from Malaysia, and of course for us, I think toilet paper ran out pretty quickly, right? So kind of a standard question, right? So for Malaysia, when the PM announced that there was this lockdown, what were the kind of items that you saw or felt that was the most popular, or like were gone
Yeah.
within seconds?
Yeah. Well, my house has a fairly good like stockpile of things, so we still maintain our regular like weekly grocers. So I didn't get to see like the immediate panic buying. I think I went to grocers like about 4 or 5 days after the announcement of the movement control order. So when I went there, like even then, there was a lot of fresh produce, basically, like your typical garlic, onions, vegetables, and like and a lot of, actually fruits not that much, but yeah, a lot of vegetables and like common things you will cook with. Most of them were very low or like very limited selection left. So the more expensive stuff. In particular to note, I believe eggs. Yeah, eggs as well as santan, which is coconut milk, if I'm not wrong.
Is it
Yeah.
in Chinese? Is it like ye jiang, or?
I don't know, but I think so. Yoke, you can correct me. It's santan. It's used in a lot of dishes, like a lot of popular Malaysian dishes, like curry mee, nasi lemak, I believe. Yeah, and there's a bunch of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yoke,
I remember
so
trying to get that.
Yoke just approved And they say yes, it's the coconut milk. So it's called, how do you spell it? Seitan.
Santan. Santan.
Santan. Okay, Santan. And this is one of the things that was very popular. People stock up a lot because it's part of the Malaysian cuisine, right?
Yes, yeah. It was very popular that, yeah. As well as the eggs. Like there was still eggs, but you could tell like a lot of the good eggs were gone and like the expensive or the lower quality ones weren't there. I mean,
okay.
this might be a problem for me, mainly because I have a choice of a few grocers, and so like I was thinking, oh, if everyone's panic buying, chances are if I go to the more like atas, the more modern or fancy or rich part of town's grocer, then there would be more stock and less panic buying. That was the hope. So yeah, I experienced that kind of thing.
Oh, but was it true, or was it like you?
I felt, well, okay, so here's the thing. The way I would do it is I would go out for take away the meal, and then on the way I would do grocers. So I went to take away a meal, and then I came back. Like in that region of shop lots, there's also a mall with a grocer. So I went to naturally check it out. And then I saw like a line that was like 50 people long, like outside the supermarket, because the supermarket had like a 50% limited rule. Like you can only have 50 people in the grocers.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I'm just going to try the other place because it's on the way back.
So the social distancing measures were in place already. Like you have 50 people maximum in the supermarket.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Most of like the grocers and like the big institutes, they got on it quite quickly.
Okay. Okay, so for those people who just join us, feel free to ask us any question, ask Eric any questions on the live chat, and also want to explain the word he used, atas. Okay, it's a good knowledge to use. In Singapore and Malaysia, it just means something that's more posh or more expensive.
Fancy.
Yeah, we call it atas. Okay, so that will be I think that's very important to explain to everyone how to use atas. Is a very good word to use. Yes.
Okay. I have a quick question now. We have talked to people from Italy and Spain and France, and they also shared a little bit about different people behaving differently. Some countries are more diverse than others, of course. Sometimes diversity comes from different ages or different generations who have experienced different things in their lives, or different levels of trust in the government. So has there been any interesting stories or issues about this that, for example, all the, let's say in some countries, maybe a lot of old people say, oh, I'm not going to believe this, and I'm so old already, I'm not going to stick to social distancing? Or could be like in some countries, maybe it's about politics, that some political party says, oh, this is all a hoax, whatever. So what about Malaysia? Is that maybe different people groups, ethnicities, ages, parties? Are there any different behaviors that you could see?
That's a very long
question.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, and I also know that you're not like an expert on Malaysian contemporary sociology, but it's more like, also it's easy to build stereotypes this way, so everyone has to take everything with a grain of salt. We're just talking about like, are there any rumors or any of your personal observations, very subjective.
Yeah. For me, I don't really have that many personal observations because, well, mainly I just go to get food, go grocers, and then come back. So I don't get to interact with too many people. Grocers would be the most where, well, because I went to the more atas place, I saw more foreigners. So there was a lot of, like we had Europeans, Americans. In terms of like special exceptions, I remember one thing. So I was like back on a trip. Okay, so here's it. Okay, let me give a small context, a little interesting story. So I went for a little trip, about 2-3 days, and in the middle of it, like I think the first day when I arrived there, like the news, the PM literally just announced, oh, we have the movement control order effective tomorrow. So
wow.
Yeah, at the time the rules weren't too stringent, so it was still alright. Like I still continued my trip, like albeit being a bit more cautious, of course. So yeah, when I came back, I was just like grabbing a meal, a lunch, and I think I was just outside of McDonald's. So I was just like queuing up. Like McDonald's already had a whole system where like, oh, you can have 3 people inside, and then you queue up 1 meter apart. You would have your temperature checked as well as your hands sanitized before you go in. So while the worker was like putting the temperature sensor on my head, he scanned me and then got a reading. There was this, I believe, American woman. Like she was just this random American woman, I think in her 40s or 50s, that came on and was like, "Ah, you're dead." And to me,
Oh no.
I personally found it very hilarious because I would I would generally say I'm quite Americanized. Like I read Reddit all the time. I've been on internet all the time. Like in terms of media, I'm fairly westernized, I would say. So for me, I could find the hilarity in it, but then I could see where from, like, if say I was someone more like traditionally Chinese, which I believe is more the majority of Chinese, or like not so westernized, like more Chinese, they would like be offended or quite put off by that sort of attitude. Yeah, yeah.
So the
Because,
yeah,
like,
so
yeah,
definitely
it's
like
like,
yeah. Oh, sorry.
yeah, sorry. It's like, yeah, like I think like at that time most Malaysians were already like in it. They were like, oh, they understand that, oh, it's like there's a coronavirus, you have to take these few steps to take precautions. And like generally I saw more foreigners not being too mindful of it.
Back in the early days, right? You're talking about like yeah.
Week one.
Week one.
When was week one?
Week one was the proper lockdown was about a month ago now. April 14th ends our current lockdown. So mid March, yeah. It started in mid March.
And since then it's like proper, like only out for food and that's it, right? Like
yeah.
You're getting used to your home very well. Let's actually have a look at the situation. You shared with us a website where we can also have a look at the cases. So let's have a quick look to just have a look roughly at the numbers and the situation. Okay, so you should be able to see it in the screen. So yeah, is there anything you would like to mention?
So yeah, this website is like, it's one of the many trackers online for like different countries. This one is the one that I use for Malaysia. Like it was the one that was spread out earliest and I just caught wind of, and I thought it was pretty good. It gives a pretty good insight. So I guess I'll just talk through it. Like currently we have 4,238 confirmed cases and about 2,500 in treatment. So yeah, as you can tell from the graph, it's like every other country. It starts with a few, then it follows an exponential curve and starts to spike up.
At least it looks like it's flattening.
Yeah, I'd say it's flattened fairly well. I don't know. I don't really check the numbers too often because for me it doesn't really. It's like I like, it's good to know about the numbers, but at some point there's no point just checking on it all the time. It feels like
it can stress you out and you can't help, right? Like all you can do, you're already doing, like staying at home. Yeah,
like for me in terms of lifestyle, it hasn't actually really changed too much actually. It's just that I can't like go exercise outside,
right?
And I can't meet my friends, I guess. But for the most like day to day, most of the time I'm still stuck at home, like doing my classes, having online classes and whatnot. And
so if you're like those introverts, if you're introvert, this is the best time for you. No change.
I guess somewhat. I would say I'm technically introvert a little bit.
All right.
Oh.
And you also sent us like a news site, right? Like is that Malaysian news? Let's have a look at that one. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah. So hold on. I'm actually looking at the stream to get the update. Okay, here we see. So for Malaysia, like the initial cases, there were just a few cases here and there, so that was fine and all. But I think around that time, most people had the consensus of like, there should be no large gatherings, basically. Like big parties, big gatherings should not be held. And so actually, on March 14th, that's exactly when the lockdown was implemented. So I believe it's during March 14th. So there's something called the Sri Petaling Mosque Gathering, which I think most people in Malaysia attribute as like the initial boom, so to speak. So it's just a religious gathering of, I think, about 60,000 people. So I guess one or two of them were infected, and then now we have a huge like explosion in amount of infected. Like I think just within 4 or 5 days, like the numbers were suddenly climbing by 100 or 200 every day.
And
And
they were linked to this Sri Petaling
Yeah.
mosque
Yeah.
case.
Yeah, if you scroll down a bit more, I believe it mentions like about 5,000. I think they've identified about just under 5,000 people like at the time that have came out, like they've identified themselves as gathering at the mosque. Yeah, because I believe a lot of people were like, the government and people in general were trying to urge it.
And
Is there something?
sorry, technical issues a little bit. But as I know it, like the Sri Petaling Mosque is pretty near your home.
Yeah, actually,
correct?
I believe I sent the picture. You can show them that. My house.
How close is your house from this epicenter, or like the initial boom, like what Eric said, like the first boom in Malaysia happened in this gathering.
Yeah.
I think we don't have the thing yet. We don't have the pictures yet, so we have to look. We can show you later, or maybe either through our other social media channels. Yep.
I mean, I can just mention it. So Sri Petaling, that small region, like I just plopped it in Google Maps just now, and I found out that it's 20 kilometers away from me. Like by driving, it'll take me like just under half an hour to get there. So that's slightly worrying.
That is slightly worrying.
It's just a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, about 20 kilometers. I mean, the virus will definitely not travel that far, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, if you go back to the news lab and scroll down, there's actually a heat map of a lot of the cases.
Ooh.
Yeah.
on the virus tracker, right?
Yeah, the news lab.
So for those audience, I think we will also leave the tracker up on the link that Eric sent to us. We will also put it on our the comment box, or in the later on we will put it in our social media channel, so you can feel free to go online and check it out as well. So we have some comments from YouTube. So first, Yok is supporting you. Your Penang friend is supporting you, saying that it feels that the Malaysian attitude of playing safe, or as we say, the kiasu spirit, kiasi, all right, scared of dying, scared of losing, is actually helping to turn this. It's helping with this fight against the coronavirus. Okay. Minju has a question for you. Like, is there any way that the government is actually forbidding religious mass gathering, or is it a very difficult thing to do, or is it being done right now?
In many countries, right, certain religions, they like to come together, and in some countries the government actually has to stop religions, and some countries have complicated relationships between governments and religions. And Malaysia, I guess, is also an interesting case. Do you know anything?
Yeah. So I think if the viewers don't know, Malaysia has quite a lot. It's quite like diverse in terms of culture. So we have like the majority, about 60-70% Malay. Then we have the Chinese, about 20-30%. Then we have like a whole bunch of lists of like we have Indians, we have like a lot of Cambodians, and a lot of like mainly foreign workers, I would say. Not necessarily all of them, but there is like Malaysia does have a lot of domestic workers from slightly poorer parts of Southeast Asia generally. So, and the government doesn't exactly like forbid other religions. So we have like all kinds of Buddhism, all kinds of Christianity, and also a lot of Islam. So the country is predominantly Islamic. Like some of the rules are actually kind of from Islam, and if I remember right, like in court the Sharia law applies. If I remember right, yeah. The Sharia is like kind of. Okay, I'm not going to go there because I'm not
Islamic
sure, but
law,
it's like it's like based on Islamic law basically.
But is it still So are people still gathering for, let's say, the prayers, or is there really like a complete kind of ban against this?
to my knowledge, I believe all has been banned already. Like I'm sure there might be like one of like there's always a few like bad apples that happen here and there. But I think in terms of the general consensus, I think most of them has been closed off. Like the way I believe the government kind of handling this is well, part of the movement control order. One way they enforce it is that actually when you go out and buy stuff or do your groceries, it's actually limited to one person per vehicle.
One person per household.
Yeah, it's one person per household, but they can't really check. So it's basically one person per car that goes out, basically. So I live with my dad right now, so I'm basically the one. Like my dad's a bit older; he's like in his 60s, so I'm the one who's just going out every day buying groceries and stuff.
Oh, I see. We have a YouTube person asking how do they pick which person to send? So I guess it's just a consensus between you and your family member, right? Like who to go out for.
I don't think there's any specific guidelines. There's no specific guidelines, but like for me, it's like my family situation is slightly a bit complicated, but basically it's just me and my dad right now. So my dad's a bit older and like he's working, and like I personally also just want to get out of the house sometimes, because like staying in home isn't exactly the best feeling ever. So yeah, I'm normally the one who just goes out and groceries. Like occasionally when he wants his own specialty stuff, then he'll go out. But for the most part in the week, like I'm going out like 4 or 5 days a week, while he goes out once or twice.
Oh, I see. And have you heard of any like arguments between family members about I want to get out? It's, no, I want to be the one.
Everyone wants to get out.
Among your friends, like.
One of my friends. From what I've heard, no, not really. It's like generally it's like the people who would do groceries and buy food, like typically before all the movement control order would just continue doing that once in a while. So because my family is, well, it's just me and my dad, so there's no real argument.
Yeah.
Like there are some times where he goes one place and I go another place at the same time. It's like they can't really check. So,
yeah. It's all about
no big deal, basically.
Kind of also a bit about upon yourself to be a bit more responsible.
Makes sense.
For that. Yeah.
And we also learned in Italy and in France and even in Spain how like the police is kind of strict to control stuff. I assume it's not going to be like this, or is it like the police patrolling around and you have to have a good reason or even fill out stuff? How does it work when you meet the police here?
Well, surprisingly, I haven't actually haven't passed through one of the vehicle police stops. Like they would find like the way they would enforce the rules is that they have checks. They'd have like roadblocks basically where you just like go through single file and they'll check, and that's how they enforce the one person per vehicle. If they go through a vehicle and they see like 4 people, then they're gonna be like, well. So they pull you over, like draw you saman. Saman is a fine.
A fine, yes.
Yeah, fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have to explain all this.
Yeah, there were a lot of cases. Like a lot of people initially didn't take the word too literally. They thought they were like kind of chill about it. So like when they said one person vehicle, they literally meant one person per vehicle. So like when that was effective, like immediately, I think the next day there were news of like a lot of husband and wife, a lot of couples going out together, and they would get like slapped with a fine, 1,000 ringgit.
So they have to say, I don't know. No, I don't know this person. That's not my husband.
But they're in the car, so you.
Yeah, technically they did not
you kind of have a
follow the rule, right? Yeah. Okay, so anyway, let's change a little bit of a topic right now and go into because you are also a student, right? Just year 2 uni, and not too long ago you were also in secondary school in Malaysia. So some people are also interested in how the whole situation has affected schools in Malaysia. I mean, they're all closed, I suppose, but are there any upcoming exams, national exams, or big exams come, and if so, then how any arrangements to deal with this?
If I remember correctly, most of like the national exams and whatnot like the academic year follows the normal calendar year from like January to December. Oh well, more to like October or November with the December break. So most of the exams, if I remember, will be held around October, November-ish. So for now, there's no real, I guess there's no real effect on it. I'm not too sure, firstly, because I don't have younger siblings or like I'm not particularly involved or like directly involved with like like secondary or like local education. All I know is that like a lot of the institutions, yeah, they're all cut out and they're all trying to do the same implementation as a lot of universities where it's online classes.
And I mean, since you are a frequent Zoom user, and any
More Microsoft Teams, but
Microsoft Teams, okay, or more you use another one, more atas, okay, more high class. Do you feel it's actually useful
Or is it in general, like this kind of online lessons? Because some people actually say maybe this coronavirus crisis just pushes the society to embrace technology more, and people realize that it was actually useless to go to a physical lecture and more stuff should be done online. Do you agree? Do you actually think it's good, or does this teach you actually no, I don't like online classes, I really need proper classes? Like, did that change your feeling of this, or do you have any advice how to make better online classes?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence on that one. I think my opinion is slightly more controversial on the side. It's where, well, okay, I'm not exactly your ideal student, first of all, to speak. I don't attend all my classes.
Hey, careful, this is going live on the internet.
So your professor must not know about this.
Well, yeah, I don't think we're famous enough for your professor to watch us.
I sometimes go to classes that are mandatory and just like, do whatever is counted as, oh, you've attended the class. Oh, you've done this short quiz. Yeah. So yeah, even before that, like in my first year, I think even on this, like first semester, I was like hardworking, going to all the classes. Then I realized it just really drains me a lot. And like I've gone to the library where a 2-hour lecture gets compressed into like a half an hour studying session for me. So like, yeah, even in year one, second semester, I was really starting to, like, I would go to the classes initially, see how the teacher is. If the teacher is like really good and the content is particularly hard, or I just really like the teacher a lot, then I would go to it. If not, I would only go if it's like mandatory, basically. And while the school does say it is like you have to have 80% compulsory attendance, it's really up to the teachers to enforce that, like whether they actually take your attendance or not. And so, yeah.
So now for the Zoom is also the same. I mean online learning. Let's not give them free advertisement for that. Yeah, and this is pretty much the same.
Yeah.
And,
so for me, should I talk about my classes now?
Sure.
Like my virtual classes, yeah. So I'm in the engineering field, so a lot of it's like math. Specifically, I'm doing electronics. So this semester I'm taking 6 or 7 subjects as I usually do. So 2 of it's actually my minor. I'm actually studying Japanese, taking Japanese language as a minor. So for those 2 classes, because well, language classes you kind of inherently have to, like, it's better to learn if you speak with a native speaker. So I do have 2 Japanese teachers, and what I see for most of like those classes is that the lectures will be pre-recorded, and so they'll be sent to us, and then we'll take that, while we also have a seminar component, like a 1-hour seminar tutorial. So that's where we get to interact with the teacher and like we get to answer questions and talk with them. But that's mainly for my Japanese classes. For the rest of my other engineering classes, it's kind of like my normal physical one. It's like, oh yeah, they teach the class, and then you attend if you want to, you don't if you know.
But after having attended a few of them, do you actually feel now this is actually more convenient than real classes? Maybe, as you mentioned before, it takes a lot of time to go to the class. Would you actually prefer to continue online or not?
In terms of just classes alone, I would probably say no, because I don't know, because for me, like the only reason if I do go to class is because I have friends. Like I think a crucial part of learning, like partially, is like sitting through an like 3-hour lecture by yourself is kind of, like it kind of, eats away at your brain. So
Okay.
like when you have friends,
Now I know
find
why
it
you
much
said
more
you might
tolerable.
not be the ideal student. I really hope your professors don't hear any of this.
Yeah. In fact, Yok say he has reported you, so
Oh well.
you know, I don't know what you're gonna do with that.
Oh God.
Alright. Okay,
Can't
so
report me if you report yourself.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know what's going on between you two, but you can figure it out later. And so there's another thing we would actually really like to learn from you, which is about the because you were there when the whole thing started, right? So you went back to Malaysia since November, so you're kind of there already, like the right at the start. And the about regarding mask, so in Hong Kong everyone was like wearing masks, and then but what's the perception of people, like among your friends or just Malaysians in general? Were they at the beginning, were they already starting to wear masks, or were they just like relax, let's wait for the government to say something? Or based on
Um,
observation.
yeah, I would say generally like Malaysians are fairly relaxed. Like they'll kind of just do their own thing until they're kind of forced to, basically. So yeah, initially like masks were not really a thing. Yeah, basically. And like afterward, it soon started getting on. Though interesting enough, actually the order and like the law actually doesn't state you have to wear a mask. It's more just like it's in some way it's almost like common courtesy. It's kind of like a social thing where it's like, oh, this guy is wearing a mask. He's like aware of like the virus going around, kind of.
Ah.
So yeah. When I go out now, like I do see a majority, like 95% wearing masks, but there are occasional like few people that don't really wear masks. And initially, like when I thought about it, like I was kind of taken aback. I was thinking like, these people are. It's like like these people are like they are like whether intentionally or accidentally like jeopardizing everyone. But like it's kind of interesting. I have that kind of mindset because I personally think that like face masks most of the time, like for I guess pedestrian use or like the commoners use, like most of the time we don't actually wear the mask properly in the first place anyway. So and if you practice social distancing already, it really doesn't matter as much. This might not be the best thing to say, but yeah, that's how I
I mean,
feel.
it's opinion, and
Yeah.
there are definitely some people, some even governments, or organizations who advocate that instead of everyone wearing masks, that you have just practice good hygiene and social distancing. Of course, we won't be able to comment on whether it's how relevant, how true or not, but
Yeah,
we are
and
just showing
opinion
different
keeps
opinions.
changing as well.
Yes,
And
this is
some
purely my
even say
opinion.
like mask is good, but we don't have enough masks, therefore we should
Yep.
save them for healthcare workers. There are lots of opinions out there. But the interesting thing is Jay mentioned something about government, right? Like, did people wait for the government to tell them stuff? In general, what do you feel like is the relationship with government? Because this thing gets politicized in a lot of countries. And in some countries, people are they listen to their government and they trust their governments. In some countries, they're very critical to their governments, right? Some make it a political issue. Some traditionally never really trusted their governments. Is there any issues in Malaysia? Like, are there any people who say, oh, we can't trust our government? Or is it everyone's like, yeah, cool?
Or is that a difficult question to answer?
Oh boy.
Keeping in mind, you already
Malaysian
gave a lot of
politics.
information
Let
about
me
yourself.
tell you about the fun world that is Malaysian politics. So, where do I start? Well, I can't really talk about politics without kind of like segregating races and
Yeah,
generalizing.
yeah.
I mean, just in
I kind
general,
of-
like in
Yeah, I
general.
kind of have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, the situation, like the events leading up to this, actually, like just before the coronavirus like ramped up, I believe like in the month before that, we had something that is colloquially known as a backdoor government. Due to the political situation, our previous Prime Minister, Dr. Mahathir, he was well, allegedly supposed to pass on the like prime minister, like pass on the prime minister position to Anwar, basically. Anwar.
Anwar Ibrahim, yes.
Yeah, Anwar Ibrahim. Yeah. I wasn't sure on the Ibrahim part. I didn't want to screw it up. But yeah, so that was supposed to happen, and then and I believe allegedly, I think they wanted to do it the proper way, which is where instead of passing the position, you have like a democratic vote, like you have the parliament, like members who are backing a certain party. So what ended up happening was that the king, like there was basically a big storm about it, and so the king basically just like invited every single member of parliament like one by one and talked and asked them for like effectively who do they support. And then when like the king I guess did a tally and was like, okay, this person has the most support, so he will be prime minister now. And turns out the prime minister now is Muhyiddin, which is not Anwar. And so people call it like a backdoor government. And initially there's supposed to be like the first meeting of the parliament. I'm not too sure with my like law and politics too much, but like they're supposed to have a meeting, and then they could show like officially who is backing the current prime minister, as well as like there's a show of no confidence and whatnot. So like if there was a full majority, then in some sense people can't complain as much that it's unfair. It's like, oh yeah, he does actually have the majority support, but that meeting never got held because of COVID now, basically. So
convenient.
Yes, very convenient. So I think in terms of how much we trust the government, I don't know. I think generally most of the Chinese population, generally speaking, oppose the current government, and in general, because I would say we tend to think like there are a lot of things that we would say is kind of unfair or somewhat like favoring the Malay population more. Like
I see. Yeah. Okay.
Like I mean some things,
maybe a little bit random. I'm just curious because you spent some time in Hong Kong, you study in Hong Kong, and now you're back in Malaysia and dealing with a crisis in Malaysia. And we also talk a little bit about government and trust. And for you as a Chinese Malaysian who has also spent time in Hong Kong, is there something you really miss about Hong Kong from your time in Hong Kong that you feel like, I wish Malaysia was like this? Or is there also something you feel like right now in Malaysia, I kind of miss that, I wish Hong Kong had that? Is there something like on both sides that you feel like the other one doesn't have? Even if it's not coronavirus related, even just some food, like just you as a person is kind of in between both cultures right now.
Well, personally for me, I actually like Hong Kong, or at least my experience in Hong Kong, a lot more. It's like there's just so many upsides to it. Like you guys have better transportation, everything is like fast, quick. Like there are a lot of things that are logically done that isn't done in Malaysia that has like kind of irritated me. Like I kind of know why it doesn't happen in Malaysia, but like, it just kind of irks me. So like the things I like about Hong Kong, I think for me mainly it's about like the connections I've built, like the friends that I've made there, honestly, that has made like Hong Kong, like in my opinion, like amazing. I think I've had an amazing experience in Hong Kong so far. And meeting all the people.
Sorry. And what would be the thing that maybe you feel that others, can learn from Malaysia or Malaysians, like maybe it's a positive thing that you...
I think Jay's just trying to get you to say something positive in Malaysia at the end. So people don't think everything is terrible.
It's not like Malaysia is completely terrible. Okay, the way I would describe Malaysia, it's a really good place to live in, but it's not the best place to make a living in.
Ooh, that sounds almost philosophical.
Like you see it, like I think nowadays there's a lot of foreigners that come in to Malaysia. They like buy a home and then they just like kind of just chill in Malaysia. They enjoy the food. They say Malaysia's. I remember the first time when like foreigners told me, "Oh, Malaysia is such a beautiful place. It's such a nice country," and then I'm just thinking, it's like, really? The countries you guys come from sound pretty good to me too.
one of our friends and his friends, they are like there for quite a while running their own company from Malaysia, and they come from different countries, but just like UK and Russia, and they just run a company because it's relatively easy to live there. It's the food is good, the kind of commercial entrepreneurial ecosystem is not bad, and it's okay to get a visa there, so it seems quite a nice place.
Yeah, I think okay, maybe when I said like about the link part, it was more from like a student aspect, like the general, unless you are like slightly more higher position, more like entrepreneur, or like you want to make your own business, then I think Malaysia is really good, partially because of the inefficiencies we already have, but yeah.
Okay,
But,
so
but
sorry, there's a lag. Yeah. No, because of the time constraint, we're gonna have to ask you one or two more final questions. Well, one final question, and unless there's any YouTube audience who would like to ask the question to Eric from Malaysia, okay, feel free to comment down below. It's actually one of our friends actually wrote this in for us to ask you guys. Is there any, after this situation, you've been here stuck in the whole lockdown and everything, is there anything, what's the biggest learning that you got out of this, regarding the situation from COVID? Like, has it shown you any strength or any weaknesses that you from Malaysians? So some people, they say that, I begin to see like family,
The value of my
the
family.
value of family, or I see that the government is really working hard, but for others, maybe from this situation they see that, hey, people are not even thinking for themselves, that they're selfish or what.
I heard some people say, now I realize how nice it is to have a pet. Or I heard from people to say like, actually, I'm not an introvert. I can't stand it.
I can't stand it, yeah.
I thought I was an introvert. So that must be something you learned about yourself
like
that you didn't know.
personally, like, what do you learn?
Personally, I don't know. Like I guess not too much. Like I know that I am slightly more towards the introverted side, but I think that isolation in general will lead any, like, even the most hardcore of introverts, like they will go like you become neurotic a bit.
So it sounds like it's actually not too bad for you. You're kind of enjoying it.
I mean, there's the advantages and disadvantages. I just try to
Right.
I just try to leverage the advantages as much as I can. It's like personally for me, it's like quite hard, like not being able to see like some of my friends, and whatnot. Cause like I might be introverted, but I also really like social interactions.
An introvert with social interaction desire.
That's true.
Okay,
That's true.
then I have one last one as well. I asked this every person as the last question as well. Is there anything about your country, about Malaysia, that you feel is not completely understood, that people sometimes misunderstand, that you just want to share right now? It could be not just about COVID-19. It could just be, you've been to Hong Kong. You've even been to Hong Kong secondary school classrooms, right? And maybe people were asking you questions. Is there anything you feel like, that's not Malaysia, or like that's too simplified picture? Is there something you want to remind people about Malaysia?
Kind of like a shout out to everyone.
Anything, yeah. Malaysia, you don't know much, but please remember. Is there anything?
I don't know if there's anything somewhat positive to say. Because most of the assumptions about Malaysia are very positive.
But they like the food. I mean, that's for sure.
How can you not like the food?
I do like the food. I do like the food. The food's great. But that's what everyone says.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
So maybe you can
There's
say
nothing
more
new,
than just
everyone
food.
already knows.
It's not just about food. New tourist slogan, Malaysia, the heart of Asia,
Yes.
or truly Asia, and it's not just about food.
I think we can add. I think as a Singaporean, I just add in that especially in Hong Kong, people always say refer to Malaysians as called in Chinese they call it Malayan, Malayan, which is actually not really correct, right?
I mean, we're Malaysians, but we're not Malay.
Yes,
Yeah.
Malay and Malaysian.
Yes. So if you're watching, if you're also from Hong Kong, this is something also for you guys. That there's a difference as well. Okay, but yeah, so that's what all we have time for. Unfortunately, you know, it's
Wow, it's
been
already an hour has
an
passed,
hour has
basically.
passed really
Oh, has
quickly.
it? Oh god.
Yes, and I really hope that for our audience in watching this live, or maybe later on you're also watching it on YouTube replay. If you have any questions again regarding Malaysia or that you don't know, maybe you haven't written it here, or you would like to be answered, please feel free to message us.
Yes.
Okay, follow us on our Instagram, Intercultural Education, same as YouTube, or Facebook, ICEHongKong. Okay.
Always hashtag ICEHongKong.
Yes, but that's
Yeah.
but with that we have to say thank you so much to
Okay.
Eric.
Can we say thank you to
Yeah.
goodbye to Eric?
Goodbye to Eric.
How do we say
and-
Yeah.
goodbye in Malaysia? Just bye bye.
There's so many times. Bye, ciao, see ya. Insert
Okay,
the
bye,
family
ciao, see
here.
ya. All right. Take care, Eric.
Yes,
Goodbye.
selamat malam. Yeah.
Oh, if there was one thing I want to say that's like
Yes.
super Malaysian to everyone, like that I could say to everyone, just relax lah, bro.
Relax lah, bro.
Just relax
Just
lah,
relax
bro.
lah, bro.
Just relax lah,
Okay,
bro.
Just relax lah,
Okay.
bro.
Just
Oh,
chill
I
lah,
feel so
bro.
bad saying that. All right. Take care, Eric.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and
Yeah.
see you.
Alright.
Bye bye.
Yeah,
And for the rest
goodbye.
of the audience, thank you for watching.
Yes.
Please
And-
stay connected with us. Please follow us on our social media channels
Yes.
and our future crosstalk series.
Yes.
We'll talk about more than just COVID-19. So we'll have a lot of other things coming up as well. For now, Mondays and Thursday evening Hong Kong time. Stay tuned. Next week, Korea is coming up. So if you want to learn about 2 of our ladies from South Korea and their experiences, please follow us.
Yes.
Okay?
All right.
Crosstalk. Okay?
See
Thank
you.
you and goodbye, everyone.